This episode of the Young and Pruitt Podcast is brought to you by Carpy's Custom Screen Printing. If you need labels, t-shirts, banners, race car graphics, window stickers, and anything else in between, give our buddies over at Carpy's a call. Or you can email them at sales@carpys.com. You can also find them on Twitter and Instagram. Twitter, hit them up at Carpys_CO. Or Instagram, it's at Carpys. And you can also look them up on their website, www.carpys.com. Give them a holler, tell them what you need, and they'll come up with a perfect product for you.
And once you are done shopping at Carpy's, be sure to head over to youngandpruitt.com, where you can find every single episode of this podcast. Ones like Bobby Allison, Joey Knuckles, Spencer Davis, and all the long line of Timmy Petcheck episodes. You can check out Layla's blog. You can head over to our fan forum, create a membership, join the discussion, and talk about anything you want. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube. Be sure to hit us up a nice review. Go over on Twitter, Instagram, at Young and Pruitt on both. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry if I sound a little nasally. I've been breathing in this plant orgy that we've been having down here in the South.
It's pretty terrible.
This past week, yeah.
It's got my throat scratchy today.
Yeah, I went to Carolina Rebellion, and I don't know if it was the dust or the pollen that was there that got me.
Could be the people who hadn't showered in days.
Yeah. And it got my wife before it got me. It got me like a couple days ago, but I think I sound like real nasally right now, so I apologize for that. And I feel like Hancock, and my hair's all messed up. But a lot has been going on.
It's a pretty wild week this week. Number one, most importantly, we were walking across the stage this Friday at 1 o'clock.
Hey. How does the song go? It's na 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 na.
Oh yeah, that's the one.
Na,
yes.
Na 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 na. And then you're, which in this case will probably be everyone's allergies and not the fact that they're actually
correct, or the fact that everybody just realized that they're in those seats for the next 2 hours of their life.
So we have talked about it, but we've never really talked about you graduating and the class you were taking and when you started, and we never really talked about that yet.
Yeah.
Elaborate your degree, when you started, where at.
Okay, so I am finishing my MBA, which is a Master's of Business Administration with a concentration in marketing.
Okay.
At UNC Charlotte.
Okay. Well, you already do marketing, so what's the MBA for?
So a lot of people use that as you can use it for a lot of the different things. So let's say you're a nurse and you want to be better at the business side of nursing. So you may take like an MBA to understand what the other side of it looks like and why, management makes decisions. So a lot of it comes down to, finance, like how the actual financials of the company are working. A lot of it comes down to, changes in HR or, changes in directions of marketing. So it's just a really good broad knowledge business degree that helps you understand how businesses actually work.
So the marketing company itself.
Well, so marketing is just a function. Now there's agencies and companies that do specific marketing, but even then they're still businesses. So they still have to cut a profit. They still have their profit margins. They still have their fixed costs, their variable costs, all that kind of stuff. So it just helps you understand business, just business in general, the whole process.
Yeah, and they're called what? Marketing agencies is what they're called?
Yeah.
Why is it always an agency? Why isn't it a marketing company or marketing?
Well, you hire an agency to act on the behalf of a company or a customer.
Okay.
So there's a literal term that's, you are acting as an agent of Shell or you are acting as an agent of Smithfield.
Okay.
And that just means that that company has hired you to do objectives, execute objectives on their behalf. So, in the same way that a sports agent goes out and gets deals for a player, Smithfield may hire, they hire Potential to activate their NASCAR sponsorship. Mm-hmm. So Potential is the marketing agency.
Now, does this hold up legally or?
Oh yeah, I mean you're literally referred to as the agency of record.
Okay, got it.
So and there's not just that. That could just be your sports marketing, or you could even call it your NASCAR marketing agency.
Yeah, because I know like you see like an NFL athlete or whatever will get in trouble, and it'll say that his agent said this.
Yes,
kind of like his lawyer said this.
Essentially, it's the guy who has the power to act as him on his behalf.
Gotcha. So his word is the word of the agency, or
yeah. So if the agent comes out and says something, it's almost as genuine as the player coming out and saying it, because he's got that power. So
it's a lot of power to have.
Oh yeah. And it's the same thing. So when, you have guests in on race day, it's very likely that it's not the sponsor themselves activating that or showing them around. It's that agency on their behalf.
Okay. So you're meeting you, but for that company.
Correct.
Got it. I mean, I know that sometimes, like with like the Air Force deal, there was a legit people from the Air Force there. But there's also you sprinkled in, but for the other side.
Sure, and a lot of that works hand in hand too. So sometimes, like for that instance, there's nothing that the Air Force Agency of Record, GSD&M, could do to replace having an actual airman there.
Oh yeah,
who handles it all right, but that airman may not necessarily know how to get around the garage, or know that you need a hot pass to get. Or have a hard card to get hot pass credentialed people into the driver's meeting, et cetera, et cetera. So, and a lot of times agencies are hired on specialty or reputation, or just whatever their demonstrated ability is to handle and complete and perform a task.
Got it. That sounds good enough. Okay, so now that you're getting a degree in that.
So I'm getting a degree in the marketing. Well, okay, so it's just like everything. So like if you're for college, for instance, you have core classes you have to take.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, yeah.
A core classes for an MBA are just a very, very broad sense of like everything. So it's going to be finance, accounting, managerial accounting, financial accounting, financial operations, economics. There's probably at least one HR class, but you're not taking stuff broad like maths and sciences, because you've already taken those to get to where you're going.
Got it.
So it's like you have your huge, broad, general base in your undergraduate degree, and then your undergraduate degree is also a concentration in like English or chemistry or whatever. Mm-hmm. So when you go to your MBA, in the same light, it's a Master's of Business Administration. So you're going to take a whole lot of classes in the broad scheme of business, but then you're going to have concentration classes that are just focused on the actual function that you're interested in. So you could have a concentration in finance. You could have a concentration in accounting. Most people would just take a Master's of Accountancy program instead of that. You can have a concentration in real estate, marketing analytics, which is huge right now. You want to bankroll big data. That's kind of where that leans on. And then, I mean, you can dual concentration. You can do a dual MBA and JD, which is you can get your law degree and your MBA at the same time for those true overachievers.
Well, that would be good, because then
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, you would know some of the legal side of it.
And honestly, if I go back to school ever, which I'm not, it would definitely be for like a law degree, so I could just be that much closer. I wouldn't ever, I don't believe, want to be a practicing lawyer.
I don't even know. I mean, as I sit here, like I don't even know, because I'm not even using the degree that I have. I got a scholarship out of high school. It was the American Legion scholarship for being the #1 history kid. And I didn't even realize that I was getting it until they called my name.
Right.
Like I was just sitting there watching all the awards they give out, and they called my name, and I got up there and grabbed the plaque and posed for the picture, and then I went over and stood by everyone else that got called up at the same time. And like as I'm standing there, like I looked down at it to like see what it even was.
Like, how did I get this?
Yeah, like where did this come from? Like I knew that I was a good history student, but I didn't realize that I got the scholarship. And the valedictorian from my class, she looked at me and pointed at it and said, "That's the one that I wanted."
Too bad, so sad.
And it was really like one of the only ones she didn't get, but she really wanted that one for whatever. And I guess it still applies. I just got to take it in Indiana. I can't. It doesn't transfer outside of the state.
Right.
So then I went to Wyotech for automotive, and it's really not even it's a 2-year degree in 9 months.
Yeah.
So because you're going 40 hours a week, you're not doing like the normal college thing.
Right.
So you're doing 2 years and
Accelerated.
but it's not even a degree. It's like a certificate of completion, basically.
Yeah.
It didn't even apply. That's why I even went down to being a pit crew person to begin with, because the college that I used was meaningless because the people that didn't go to college already had the jobs.
Right.
And they're learning on the job. You know, you just, okay, so can you weld? Can you turn a wrench? Yeah. So they got the jobs.
I think a lot of graduates of UTI, NTI have the same comments.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wyotech, UTI, NTI, Lincoln Tech.
Yeah.
The only thing that I think would be SAMS down in Houston, the School for Automotive Machinists, because usually you got to graduate from one of the other ones before you get down there.
Okay.
And you got to be in the top. Like even the guys that got the big dealership jobs, like they were in the top. You had to be the top 5 out of the class in order to get called in. Like Sawgrass in Florida or whatever the big one is in Texas. I can't remember. But like I don't really ever see myself going back. I mean, maybe something in media now that we're doing this. Maybe, I don't know. But I think we're doing it pretty good as we are.
I don't think you would benefit from it.
Yeah. That's why I asked that question.
You'd benefit more at this point from reading books on your own.
Yeah, YouTube type stuff.
Listening to people who you idolize and think that does a good job.
Yeah.
And then, it's really more about
using their inspiration to
understanding and application.
Yeah.
So it's like you can go to the best school in the world, but if you don't truly understand it and know how to apply it to your own circumstances, then it doesn't really matter.
Which is why I asked the question, like you're already in sports marketing. Why do you need the MBA?
It's a good leverage. A lot of places will give you more money for having it.
Just because.
And for me, it's definitely, so the most beneficial part is the people you meet, the networks, the different styles and abilities to learn from your fellow classmates as well as the professors. But it really has completely changed like how I look at things and see things and perceive things.
So was there other people in your course that already, was it all online or did you actually have to go into class?
Oh no, we went to class. So
was there other people there that are already working as marketing people?
Oh yeah. A lot of times if you're like entry level or just a couple years onto the job, you can go get your MBA because a lot of places will prefer that you have it or have it as a requirement to take it to the next level, to like upper mid-level management.
Okay, what would be considered an entry level marketing person?
Like a marketing coordinator for a corporation. Marketing actually is a pretty well-paying job.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go and get, if you just went to work for like a regular corporation, I could make more money going elsewhere, but I don't want to do that.
Well, you don't want to make more money?
No, I don't want to go anywhere else.
Oh, okay.
I like where I'm at currently.
Okay.
If I'm going to make more money, I want to do it sitting in this chair.
Yeah.
Doing my own thing.
A lot of sports athletes, from what I've seen, the ones that join us on Pit Road, they are always in sports marketing or sports agencies type stuff, which is probably the same thing.
A lot of those sports marketing agencies like to hire former athletes because you're competing, your spirit of competition that just kind of lies within you.
Yes.
And they typically see that as like a good positive hustler who will go out there and do it. But I didn't play any sports officially. I was really good at wrecking a motorcycle.
Yeah. But and then there's also that respect that you get from the community that you're in.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you can walk the talk, talk the talk. Right.
Yeah.
So,
you know the deal.
But yeah, occasionally somebody can, like myself, can just show up and outwork everybody and work for free and hustle. And
I mean, because you see that with certain media guys that cover the sport on Yahoo. I mean, they get ripped constantly.
Yeah.
Because they're just the big media agency covering the sport.
Right.
And a lot. I mean, there is the core media people, the ones that have garage access. Those guys have their finger on the pulse. The guys that you see in the garage, I'm not going to name any names, but there's certain ones that you always see. They always have their hand in it, and they're in the racetrack. They're there talking to the people.
yeah,
So, and that's only at the racetrack. Some of them are lucky enough to be allowed access to the race shops. But they also have to live here because they also have to be able to go out and talk to people. But then there's some guys that only run their Twitter accounts off of what those people say.
right. Those people have it figured out.
Yeah.
How to monetize that? Holy shit.
Yeah. Like, you're only going off of what they say. It's okay. So maybe, yeah, they might have some, damn it. What's the word I'm looking for? When someone tells you what's going on.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Kind of like a reporter.
No, a source.
Oh, yeah,
Damn
source.
it. Yeah, a source. So, yeah, they might have some sources and they might hear certain things, but they're not, like, they have to ask.
Right.
Like, they're not going to be there and getting it and then, okay, well, hey, shut off your deal. Okay, now what's really going on?
Right.
And then you can kind of lay context on top of what they said.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of stuff that I know me and you know that we can't say.
Never.
Because that's just the way it is. Like, there's still some things
Well, you got to have respect for your opponent,
yes, there's
right?
still some things that are holy
Yeah.
or sacred, I should say. There's still some things that are sacred
Absolutely.
in the sport to where you don't want to be the asshole. Okay, if I know so-and-so is going to be in this car in 3 weeks, you don't want to be the asshole that spits out that deal because now
Right.
you're sitting there as a marketing guy and all of a sudden you're kind of, you're drinking your coffee and you're thumbing through Twitter and all of a sudden so-and-so is supposed to be in this car.
Right.
And you're like, shit!
I did that. I did not mean to do that. And then all of a sudden you're cut off. Also, by the way, those quote unquote leaks that happen to make their way out, days before the actual announcements, are not leaks.
Yeah, there's
They're
that.
purpose.
Yeah, there's
They're very
that.
purposeful.
There's that. There's the chess game that goes on.
Yeah.
And there's people that'll do it just to spite them and to get the bad news out
Right.
when they're not ready.
Correct.
So there's all that.
Timing is such a crazy thing.
Yeah. I mean, there's been rumors that have gone as long as 6 months. Like, so the rumor that the 6-man deal started last year.
Right. Shoot, we were...
Shit, it started when we were at Petty's.
I was going to say.
And it was supposed to be for the next year that,
Right.
hey, they're going to take away a tire carrier, and then it never turned into anything.
And then they were supposed to replace the Jackman with
Air
pneumatics.
Air jacks. And before we even had the episode about that, it was months, but it was 6 months before that we were hearing about that.
Well, there was a certain cat in a hat, not named Jack Roush, walking around saying, we won't need those much anymore.
Nope. So we have all that other stuff, and there's rumors that we have now that we could say, but it's not. That's not
It's not our place.
No.
To do that.
We will talk about them as soon as they come out.
We'll respect the media's job. I think, and this is going to roll over into the bigger conversation of this episode, but the way the sport's being covered is outdated and antiquated.
100%. But we were also behind the 8 ball we've talked about before.
Yeah, well,
because the internet deal with Turner.
Right.
So it seems like we were behind the 8 ball and all that stuff.
It's such a unique sport that there's no book, there's no anything that you can go back and reference and say, this is how the next move should be. There's nothing, because there's just nothing else like it. So, obviously, the big story this week.
Well, okay, hold on.
Okay.
So Talladega. Was last week. The day of the ARCA race, right?
Yeah, day of.
The day of the ARCA race.
It may have been the day before.
Yeah, maybe the day before when they were qualifying or whatever. There was an announcement that came out that NASCAR was buying ARCA. And the first thing that I thought of was, why?
Right.
Why? Because I've spent a lot of time in the ARCA series. The ARCA series likes being the ARCA series. They liked being by themselves. They liked being their own little deal. Yeah, Big Brother's over there.
I think we even had that conversation with Matt Weber.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, so you have them over there. We're kind of doing our own thing. We kind of we're going to be a couple years behind on technology and rule changes, but that's fine. We're comfortable where we are because we're just having fun. There's not that much pressure, and they're just doing their own thing. Yeah, we will feed off of Big Brother being at certain racetracks or being in the certain areas or whatever. That goes on. But even like the officials and stuff, like you would get the other side of the fence. That's what it's what it was always called, the other side of the fence. When you were at Pocono, the other side of the fence. Kentucky, the other side of the fence. Yes. Iowa, the other side of the fence. And that's the way that it was. So the first thing that I seen ARCA Series bought my NASCAR. NASCAR buys ARCA Series. Huh? What? Mm-hmm. Why? The ARCA series is one of those deals where they knew they had what they had. They knew that they were the small town, small circuit. Yeah, they were on MAV TV. They were on Speed. They were lucky enough to get the good races on live.
Right.
And then the other ones would be recorded, and they would always be good. And they'd just be always sprinkled in with the Supercross and the trophy trucks or whatever. So I always had the feeling that they were just content with that. They were fine.
Right.
They don't have this big up-down crash. Yes, NASCAR and everywhere else is down in their ratings.
Way down.
ARCA, I don't think is.
It's pretty stable.
Yeah.
Well, it's a niche or niche if you're a fucking. Anyways.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, so it. Yeah. The only reason why the K&N series got more press is because it had NASCAR itself pushing it.
Right.
They had the big company, the Big Brother of NASCAR, overseeing everything that had the more access to the different medias, to the different stations, and just say, "Oh, hey, here's the young gun coming up in the K&N series." But then racetracks started to spit them out.
Right.
You don't go to Phoenix anymore.
No.
So
can't pay the fee.
Yeah, it started to work against them. So you can either look at I think that you can look at this as two ways. You can look at it as it is, I'm buying up the competition. I'm eliminating a competitor. Okay, fair enough. Maybe. Like you can go down a long list of series that NASCAR owns.
Oh yeah.
Canada, Mexico, K&N East, K&N West, trucks,
Supercross, IMSA.
Yeah, all that stuff. All those series that they own or are related to or do business with.
Right.
It's a bunch.
Yeah, ISC.
So what's the need for the acquiring of ARCA? Could it be just trying to get rid of competition? Maybe. I don't really think it was that big of a competition. Okay, so now you look at it as they needed to be moved out of the way. Whether that was scheduling, trying to get different events, because there's some tracks that we would go to. ARCA was the main show.
Right.
The truck race would be on before ARCA was. They had the show at Pocono. The truck race was before.
Right.
Then it was the ARCA race. So is it that? Was that enough? Was that hindering them enough to have to do that? If you won't get out of the way, here's an offer you can't refuse. We'll just buy you to make you go away. Maybe. Could it be that? Could it be eliminating a competitor? Number one. Number two, scheduling. Number three, could it be access to racetracks that they hadn't had access before? That could be it, because you see this short track movement starting to go certain ways and trying to get back, and that's what 90% of the ARCA series is. It's all short tracks.
Well, it could be argued that if you're an up-and-comer, I think personally you get a lot more out of ARCA than you do K&N.
Yeah, because for the longest time,
live pit stops.
It was a cup motor, live pit stops.
Right, yeah.
And it is competitive, and you're at short tracks, and you're cutting your teeth, and you're beating and banging, and you're dealing with lap traffic, and you're dealing with closing rate with some of the cars. So you go to these Winchesters, Salems, IRP, Elko, like all these, Berlin, all these little bitty tracks out in the middle of nowhere that aren't anything like anything you're going to be at. So you really get what being at Berlin's like compared to being at Winchester, and then maybe in defeating into Bristol later on. So then Bristol doesn't really seem like that big of a deal when you're going around Berlin and there's really no straightaway. So now Bristol seems like a big place.
Right.
Or Dover seems like a big place. And you have just as much horsepower. So that maybe, I could see it as maybe that they're trying to combine the Kane and the ARCA series. I haven't seen anything come out about it yet.
I doubt you're going to.
But that's if I was looking at it as they were doing it for those purposes. Now, a week later or a couple days later, the rumor, the leak had come out that the Frances might be trying to sell this thing.
The leak. Just remember that word.
Well, okay. Now, I remember right at the beginning of the year, remember? I texted you. I said, holy shit, I just heard something.
And even Adam Stern tweeted that out.
He did.
The same time frame.
Yes, he did. And then it never really went anywhere.
That is absolutely insane, because remember I told you back in 2015 that there was an international Middle Eastern group that wanted to buy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you're crazy. The Frances will never. Well, guess what, everybody?
And then they went over to China, and they were there for that track opening over there.
And then earlier this week, the international guy for NASCAR resigned.
Yeah.
I've got a friend down there right now interviewing today for business development positions. So
I think
there's about to be a huge shift here, and we'll dive deep.
Yeah. Okay. I think what we've been seeing is, you know how in the movie, was it The Day After Tomorrow?
Yes.
All those little weather changes started to happen and then lead it up to the big boom.
Yes.
I think that's what we've been seeing, and I think that's what this is going to, where we heard of it being sold. We heard of the international stuff. We heard this over there. We heard the ARCA thing. Like we're on the train tracks, and we're on the train, and we're going down, and as we're passing, different things are happening, but we can't see what's in front of us yet.
Right.
They do. So the international thing, the big rumor, which is out. It's a rumor, but it's still common knowledge. I mean, hell, I see it on Facebook all the time, is that the people who own the sanctioning body would like to purchase the Panthers. So where's the motivation? Why would they sell? Because they think it's a failing sport. Everybody's down. So everybody is down.
And this is something I learned in my MBA class, and it becomes more clear and true every day. The days of competing on innovation of product are kind of gone. The days of competing with innovations and business models is where we're at right now. Your business model is how you make your money, right?
Yeah. And so our business model for the podcast is this.
Right.
Okay.
So for the longest time, we'll start something simple. hot dog restaurant or Whataburger right down the street from YPP Studios.
Okay.
They make money by selling food.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's the big thing. So then you break it down. Okay, so how do they make that money selling food? Well, it's called profit margin. So the bun costs 10 cents. We're going to charge 50 for it. The burger costs like 15 cents. We'll charge $2 for it.
Mm-hmm.
A drink, that's an extra $2. That's 10 cents for the cup and probably 2 cents for the actual liquid that you're going to drink, and probably a cent for the ice, right? Mm-hmm. So now you've taken the biggest, we sell food. Well, you go down a step further and you say, this is how it's all segmented. This is what we need to make. And with this package, we're going to sell it for this. And this is how much money we can make per sell on this in particular, or this particular combo. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that's how a typical restaurant makes money. Their business model is to sell food, right?
Yes. And the balancing act is how much you can get people to charge, or how much you can charge people for that.
Right.
So your soy burger that's being mass produced is only worth, people are going to know, and they're only going to pay so much compared to a Kobe ground beef or a grass-fed bison burger.
Correct. Yes. Okay. So now you're taking just your regular burger joint, and now you've said bison burger or health foods, right? So that's a even more specialized group. So now you can charge higher margins to a smaller group of people and still make good money because
your margin isn't as big, but you're still making just as much money.
Yeah. Because everything is based on percentages, right? So a bison burger is going to cost a lot more for that restaurant to sell than versus a regular standard, 73 or 75, 25, ratioed beef burger.
It's pounded super thin.
Yeah. So, but there's a market for that. Lots of the general populace wants to buy those burgers, but there is a big enough piece that wants to buy the bison burger.
Yes.
So in marketing, that is called the bell curve, right? So if you look at it in the middle, your biggest part of the bell is here. And then as you go down, it kind of turns into this bell shape that flares out, and it goes, the amount of people who want whatever that is on the spectrum decreases, and it goes out to the sides. Mm-hmm. So it curves out. Mm-hmm. And if you could see me drawing, it's better. So a guy named Leslie Wexner took that idea, and he said, okay, so if I look at the big demand here and you look at the bell curve, there's a lot of people here in the middle. Like 95% of the people are here in this big chunk here that likes, and let's say that there's, it's cake mix, right? So you have on one far extreme to the left is dark cake mix, and all the way to the right is light cake mix. Mm-hmm. Now there's a shade there of gray that most people prefer. That's the big chunk in the middle. That's the majority of the bell.
Yeah.
But as you flare out to the sides, there's smaller amounts of people who want just dark, and there's smaller amounts of people who want just light, but they're still there and they'll still buy those things. He used that and said, I think there's a lot of people that don't want regular underwear. They want something that's more appealing and more sexy and whatever, and created Victoria's Secret. So let's got a little sidetracked there. So business models. Okay. How, for the most part, through the 90s and 2000s, did people who wanted to rent places to stay on vacation, they just used hotels? And there was a smaller group of people that would use local rentals provided by local rental companies. Mm-hmm. Nowadays,
or like a
vacation,
bed and breakfast.
Bed and breakfasts is, or calling a travel agent who had good connections in popular areas that could get you houses that probably weren't, on the market publicly.
Yeah.
And they just contracted specifically with travel. Well, now the business model that's huge and sustaining is Airbnb. And they do not make their money by owning the properties. They make their money by providing a huge fucking audience through a free to use app. And it's more of a marketing tool and distribution tool as opposed to a company that owns properties. So
yeah,
the business model there,
that meme that I sent you, that Airbnb is the biggest hotel company on the planet
and owns
zero property. Uber is the biggest taxi service,
owns no cars.
So that's, and then what was the other one? The other one that they were doing. There was a third one.
I mean, you could say Spotify. They don't own a record label.
Yeah,
but they pump out a fuck ton of music. So the sharing economy, that's just all that is a change in business model. The big money's no longer in owning the properties. There's still money in it. The big money is making those properties available quickly at a fair rate in a user-friendly, absorbed application that people can just click on and say, yeah, I like this one. Click. Take your fee off the top, and that's that. So it's a competition in business models. Paid content. Before we had cable, we had televisions.
And then closed circuit pay-per-view.
Yeah. So then, at first, your first televisions, those broadcast companies made money specifically through ad revenues. Then we went to cable. Okay, the business model changed. You're no longer just using ad revenues. Now you have a paid subscription service on top of ad revenues. So it changed. Well, now we don't even have to have that because we have Netflix and Amazon and Hulu. And they don't broadcast other people's stuff. Well, they do. They have movies and TV shows and everything. But now people...
Yeah, but it's legitimately called cord cutting. Cutting the cable cord.
The cord, right. So people are wanting to get away from those subscriptions. And what's driving it... Yes. And what's driving those migrations to Netflix, to Amazon Video, to Hulu is original content that you can't get anywhere else. So, for example, 13 Reasons Why. Huge Netflix original success, right? New season starts next month. You had, I think they had something like 11 million Twitter mentions after like the first day that it came out, like a couple years ago, end of 2016. Just massive. And it's the same thing why people subscribe in their cable packages to HBO. Because there's only one place you can watch Game of Thrones. It's HBO. There's only one place you can watch Silicon Valley. It's HBO.
You can watch Game of Thrones through Amazon, but you're buying an HBO subscription through Amazon.
Because Amazon creates and owns that original content.
So you're not paying the $30 a month on your cable bill. You're paying the $5 or whatever, but you're not able to watch it live.
Right. And that's... People are like, well, if there's a lot of the same stuff on Amazon and Netflix, why don't I just buy one? Well, because you're not going to be able to watch 13 Reasons Why on Amazon. In the same extent, like I love the Grand Tour. That's only on Amazon. So I can't watch any of that on Netflix or Hulu. And what was the big one before Game of Thrones started coming out? House of Cards.
Yes.
That's a huge one. I think Cinemax has the show Billions. That's another binge show.
Yeah. And then Showtime had Spartacus.
Spartacus, that's a good one. Entourage, way back in the early 2000s. So all that stuff. So we are so paralyzed by there's so much content out there that media companies are forced, follow me down this path, media companies are now forced to own as much original content to drive viewership and have people buy into their brand strictly based on original 100% unique content.
Yeah. So, but they're getting away from what they were to begin with, and now they've turned into...
Well, you're forced to. You have to.
Yeah, so Amazon is becoming ABC. Netflix is becoming CBS.
Okay, so
Hulu is becoming NBC.
You're here with me now. Okay, good. So this is not only the direction of all content, but sports is going that way.
Sports is one of the only things that's still
Soccer
live.
is being right.
That's it. Like, yes, the
you can't recreate
the
sports.
Game of Thrones of the world, but that's just that one.
You can't leak information to a live sporting event because it hasn't fucking happened yet. You can leak what's been recorded or if it's been tape delayed, but you
or
can't,
what is happening, like
or what's happening. And even then, the moment you hit send on Twitter to update it, that moment's gone and passed. So there's no way to replace live events. And sports is still the biggest generator of attendance in live events. So the problem is you have all these massive TV deals going on right now. Everybody's ratings are down. Huge amounts of rating just drop. Yes, NASCAR has had a very, very hard fall off over a 10-year period. The NFL took a beating last year, 20%, but they're still way fucking high making mad money.
Yeah.
And if you look how the NFL's business model is, so their teams can sell sponsorship and it's just icing on the cake. So those deals that the Panthers have with the local Dodge dealerships
now
or with Miller.
Now, are those deals different from the collective bargaining agreement? That's just
team property.
And that's just from TV, right? That's just from TV revenue?
Okay, so teams make the majority of their money from TV revenue.
Yeah, and that's the collective bargaining.
That's the CBA.
Yeah.
That's all based on like viewership and market size.
We all
numbers.
get our piece of the pie. So
correct.
It's
why the Cleveland Browns
can suck
and be worth $1 billion,
Yeah.
and next year will be $1,001,000,000.
Yeah.
That's exactly why.
Yeah.
And I think that was the thinking behind the RTA. It was try to move something that way. The problem is while NFL, is growing and growing and growing, and then took a beating last year, which a lot of
I don't think that the profit sharing is nearly anything close to what the NFL or the MLB.
We're not close. We're nowhere close.
Yeah, we're nowhere
close. And a lot of that has to do with the business model because you have to look at how NASCAR makes money. NASCAR makes money through majority TV ad revenues.
Yes, absolutely. I was always told that there could be no one in the stands and they would still make money.
Currently, yes. No, you don't want to.
No.
Because it's a huge chunk. It used to be very, 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 quite literally, like there had to be lots of people in the stands to be super profitable. It's called the gate. And what a lot of people don't realize is you still have to split that gate. So like the track gets some of that, but there's pieces of that gate money
Goes into the purse.
that goes into the purse. It goes here to this. It goes here to that. It goes some to charity, blah, 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 blah. So NASCAR makes a lot of money. TV is one. Sponsorship revenue is another one. Merchandise sales is another one. And then people forget that racetracks have to pay NASCAR a sanctioning fee to hold the event there. So that's another way they make money, is sanctioning fees. Another way NASCAR makes money.
Which we've seen a lot of this come out when BK filed for bankruptcy.
Right.
All that came out.
Yes.
So we've seen a lot of it, and then if you start using your calculator and you start timesing it times so many teams,
yes,
you start to come up with some pretty big numbers.
It's pretty massive.
Which, it's that exclusivity. If you want to race in our deal,
right,
this is what it costs.
This is just what it costs.
Fair enough.
No, it makes sense, but now, so we've kind of got enough of a base level that I feel most of our listeners can kind of get a gist of where we're at today.
Yeah.
But where we're going tomorrow, that style is not going to work.
Well,
and here's why. So Comcast and Fox and Disney are all in this crazy like menage a trois.
Yeah, so Comcast and Disney are fighting over Fox.
Right, and it's Fox Sports, it's The Simpsons, it's X-Men, it's Marvel, it's all this stuff. So it's and their play there specifically is going after the original content. So Netflix is doing everything it can to get original content. Black Mirror, for instance.
Yeah, Black Mirror.
That was huge in Europe.
All the comedians, they're going over there. They're only producing their comedian hour on there, and that's big over there.
Joe Rogan.
Yeah, they're spitting
Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, they're spitting those things out as fast as they're gobbling up everybody.
Everybody.
Yeah, like it used to be what they say to have a Comedy Central special was the big thing. Now it's Netflix.
Now it's a Netflix special. You're getting paid way more money.
Yeah, because it's always there.
TV numbers across everything are dwindling because of the cord cutting.
Well, I think, not to cut you off here, but the big thing that they always talk about, because I listen to a lot of MMA stuff. That's how I spend my time. I am an MMA fan. My job is racing. So to get away from my job, I go watch MMA.
Correct.
And WME just bought, a couple years ago, they just bought the UFC from Zuffa. Zuffa was owned by the Fertitta brothers. Two brothers that seen this thing that was called MMA, and they said that we really have something here, and they put the money into it, and they created the UFC, and what UFC 1 was 94, I think it was. And it really, like, no one had ever seen it before at all, so it really took off.
Yeah.
So WME, which is the William Morris, what's the E stand for? William Morris something. They bought it for $4 billion. They bought the UFC for $4 billion and the 500 roster of fighters that are on the deal. So now they bought it when UFC was at its peak, when they were hitting on all cylinders. Ronda Rousey, Brock Lesnar, Conor McGregor was just getting his start. Like, it was boom, boom, all these big heavy hitters. So they have the pay-per-view once a month. You can watch and you can see who the big money fighters are. There's a lot of middle road fighters that are complaining that they're not getting paid as much.
Right.
Well, you're only getting a couple 100,000 views. You're not getting the 4 or 5 million that Conor McGregor is. So, of course, you're not going to make as much. So, where is that other 4 or 5 million coming from? It's coming from the casual fan.
Right.
Okay. We just watched one of the one things that's on my bucket list this past weekend. We watched the Kentucky Derby. Pouring down rain, there was 160,000 people there.
Right.
Horse racing.
Think about how many people are going to be at the Indy 500 in the middle of that 98-degree.
No, it's not that hot. Up in May. Well, actually, this month.
Yeah.
It's later. It's in 2 weeks? Yeah, it's that one event.
Right.
The Kentucky Derby is that one event. The Super Bowl is that one event. That gets the casual fan. Every casual person, you might not watch football, but you know what the Super Bowl is.
Yeah,
You're not a racing fan, but you know what the Daytona 500 is. You know what the Indy 500 is. You know what the Kentucky Derby is. You might not even watch the Preakness or the... Jesus, what's the other one of the Triple Crown?
That's a good point you're making right there.
Yeah, that's a very good point. What's it called? The Preakness and the... it begins with a B. Oh, someone's screaming at the radio right now. What's it called? Pause. Gotta get this.
Yes.
Oh, I did my headphones.
Triple Crown. Is it the Belmont?
The Belmont, yes. Yeah. Jesus. Oh, yes. Okay.
Belmont Stakes. There you go.
Yeah. So it's the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont. That's the Triple Crown. And you really only are going to watch the Belmont or the Preakness, whichever one's. I think the Preakness is next, and then the Belmont's last. You're only going to really watch the Belmont if the horse same horse has won the first previous races.
Right.
That's the only time you're going to tune into that. If no one's watched that, you're probably not going to watch. Because in the casual fan,
doesn't matter. Not interesting storyline.
So you have to have the casual fan. So right now, the biggest sport that has the most casual fans is football.
Yeah.
That's why it's the number one sport.
And soccer is the number one sport.
It has been riddled by all the political stuff that's been going on.
Right.
So that's turning off a lot of the casual fans.
Right.
And some of the core fans are getting turned away too. But either way, it's not good.
Right.
Because you're turning away more people because there's not people that didn't watch there's a far less number of people that didn't watch football before and suddenly started watching it because of the political stances of this and that. Like, oh, football is cool. The number of that is way less.
Right.
So that's why it always fits the theme of what I've always said. It's not the sport that is failing because everyone's down.
Right.
If it was just us, if it was just auto racing, then yeah. If everyone was going over in droves over into NHRA or Formula One or whatever,
right,
ARCA, like then it would be okay. So the playoffs might not have been a good idea. Doing this, doing that, the stages probably wasn't a good idea. But that's not it. Those are things that they're trying to do to try to get casual fans involved in it.
Right.
Try to get excitement in the middle of the race.
Yes. Correct.
And you're building towards something to see at the end. So you're getting that same horse winning those first two races as you go along with the season. You're keeping people tuned in. That they're part of something that's building to something, just like Game of Thrones. You're building to something.
Yeah.
So who buys it?
Okay, so this is all speculation, but I would say it's an educated speculatory statement. They're putting the feeler out there knowing it's going to take a little bit. It's going to take a little bit to figure out the value.
Yeah, I think the
big scary monster that's pushing all of this is the end of the TV deal in 2024.
Yeah.
Because then...
But I think... Hold on. I just want to make this point. I think that it came out so the sticker shock goes away.
Right.
So you're saying, we didn't say that. We didn't mean that.
Right.
And then it comes out a little bit later that, yeah, we are. And then everyone's like, oh, okay. It's not the... that the first one, like you're getting past that to where when the time comes, there's not a, oh my God, the sky's falling. It's like, oh yeah, well, it was kind of going that way. Like, yeah, like they kind of hinted that. Like, didn't we hear something like 2 years ago that they were going to sell it? Like that's kind of where that's going.
So the big scary monster is the TV revenue. We all know there may be another TV deal. It's going to look completely different. It's going to be way smaller.
Yeah. Which NBC is gobbling up motorsports.
Right.
Like crazy.
There goes the
exclusivity.
So here's the thing. If you look at what Amazon is worth, it's like $500-600 billion.
Billion with a B.
It may be even more than that. Let me check the market cap.
Billion. Well, I know that he's now the richest man, right?
Right. Market cap, Amazon. And let's go to the financials.
I have been saying that when we go to Mars, it's going to say Amazon on the side of the rocket.
Well, it's
right. Well, maybe above the American flag.
Yes. If they don't buy America first. Very likely. Market cap, $784 billion.
Billion, B.
Market cap is stock price versus outstanding shares. So however many shares they've sold times $1,608 is how much market cap is. So they have
$1,608 is how much
one
share's for?
One share's worth. Okay, so $784 billion. Now, NASCAR, if you include all the tracks, I think $5 billion is not good. I don't think that's a fair price. I think $2 to $3 billion is what it's going to sell for.
Yeah, because they don't own. They're not contracted to the cars.
Right.
Like where the UFC is contracted to the fighters.
Right.
NASCAR isn't
No.
contracted to any of the race teams.
So essentially, Amazon or Google or anything could buy them, and it would be a rounding error. It would be pennies, nothing for them to buy it. Further, what's really I bet the market cap for Fox is nothing compared to what a Facebook or a Google is. 20th Century Fox. Okay. 20th Century Fox. Think about that. Fox News, all that shit. All the things that you see that are Fox, the television, the media influence, et cetera, et cetera.
Studio.
Et cetera. Studio. All those things. Simpsons, Family Guy, all that stuff. Deadpool.
X-Men.
$69.49 billion. Tell me, look at me in the eyes and tell me, what chance does Fox have against Amazon saying you're ours now? There's not one. It's a joke. So with the big grab, and I mean, people are still consuming shit. That's the thing that people don't understand.
You see, UFC, they just signed with ESPN.
Right.
So basically, UFC is switching their online streaming thing, which was called Fight Pass, which is what I'm a member of. It's $10 a month.
Right.
You can watch all the old Pride stuff, which I highly suggest going back and watching the old Pride fights. That was the Wild West. So UFC bought Pride, which is their biggest competitor at the time.
Yes.
Now it's Bellator, but they bought that. So now you have this on-demand deal, and you can watch the pay-per-views in real time. You can order them off the streaming deal, but it takes a week or two, or maybe a month or two. So say you watched it last night, it's not going to be back on Fight Pass until like a month or two.
Right.
So basically what they're doing is they made a deal with ESPN to be on ESPN Plus, which is now ESPN's streaming service, which is now $5 a month. And they're doing 15 in 2019, they're doing 15 exclusive UFC fights on ESPN Plus.
Right.
So what's going to happen to Fight Pass? Because Fight Pass had exclusive fights and had exclusive.
ESPN needed exclusive, original, unique content.
Yeah.
That's how it's all going.
So, and who owns ESPN?
Disney.
Bingo.
Yeah.
So now when you watch your favorite fighter get his head kicked in, it's owned by Disney.
Little penny or dime or nickel size.
And if anyone just watched the most recent Marvel movie, getting kicked in the head is the least of dark stuff that happens to people.
Yeah.
So
not to mention, I think that's already $1 billion movie worldwide.
Oh yeah, it was $1 billion it was $1 billion in 6 days, 7 days, in a week. $1 billion movie. It made more money their second weekend than most movies make their entire theater run. But it had been 10 years.
10 years and 18
making.
movies and building up to that.
Yeah, that movie does not stand alone at all. Like you could we took our daughter to go watch it.
No idea what the hell is going on.
Okay, I kind of know who that guy is, but she didn't know. Like she knew who everybody was, but she didn't know how they got in the position that they were getting.
Yeah,
and she kind of put it together a little bit, but she thought it was cool because it was awesome. She would have got it that much more had she knew the actual story. But it got her interested in going back and watching the other ones.
Right.
So now she's showing interest that was never there before to go back and watch it. But that's like the balls of a studio to put out a movie that you need to watch 19 other movies to watch.
Right.
To get it became a sitcom. It became Game of Thrones-esque.
Right.
To where every episode of Game of Thrones was a movie. It was his own movie, building up to this, Game of Thrones is a 72-hour movie.
Yes.
Spanned over 8 years, maybe?
Pretty much, yes.
What, 2000 Well, shit, more than that. 2006 was the first. 2006, 2008 was the first episode of that. So yeah, so you're right at 10 years with that, and then we're waiting until next year for the last one. So you're at 11 years. So I could see Amazon buying it. So that was my one that I had heard was Amazon. The other one was Comcast, because if Comcast doesn't get the Fox deal like they're trying to get right now, that's always that apparently
Disney's a $161 billion company. Comcast is a $149 billion
so
company.
Wait, Disney's only
161 billion.
161 billion. And Amazon's what?
$749 billion. That's what I'm saying. That's my point here.
And didn't Disney just pull all of their stuff off of Netflix?
Yeah.
Because they said Disney was going to buy Hulu. I think.
Disney did buy a share of Hulu.
Yeah, Disney did buy a share of Hulu. So, okay, so if Comcast is the thorn in Disney's side when it comes to the Fox deal, because Disney wants it, mostly the big thing that's driving it, I'm sure of, is not just because the Fox News thinks, because that's the last... Okay, I'm not even going to go down that political path.
Right.
So I think that they're trying to buy Fox a lot because of the Marvel deal. Right. Because they want the X-Men and they want all the characters, Spider-Man, which Sony really owns, but it was Sony Fox. But they want to bring all those back. They want to be in
They're super profitable pieces.
Jesus, they $1 billion movie in a week. They want to have all of that, and the way to get that is through Fox, and then the last couple through Sony, which Sony has basically said, "Here's Spider-Man."
So a lot of this, like NFL, Amazon, Twitter broadcasts Thursday night games. You could still see them on like NBC. I think Amazon's going to be broadcasting, Thursday night games this year.
Yeah.
For a motorsports reference.
What is Comcast worth?
Comcast
Chase.
Worth
what's Comcast worth?
Yeah. 149 billion.
149 million? Billion?
Yeah. So what I'm saying is somebody is going to buy not only like a Fox broadcast, but they're going to buy NASCAR.
An entire sport.
Entire property. And the NFL will be...
An entire sport, like stock car racing, because now they own
ARCA.
They own ARCA, yes.
And now they own ARCA. NASCAR home tracks and all this other stuff. So the way that NASCAR is kind of being evaluated, for the most part, is by TV ratings, impressions through all these things. A lot of it's front-loaded to TV. Some of it's like digital. That's old. Traditional old advertising is not the standard anymore. Mm-mm. So if I'm NASCAR, and we'll go down this path probably a million times throughout this year, what happens to NASCAR when it gets sold? Well, the answer is it depends.
Okay, now that is okay. Now before we go down that path, because that's the second half of this conversation, what happens then? The other thing that I heard is someone from China is looking to buy it also.
It's very possible.
And that meeting at that racetrack had something to do with that. That was the other rumor that I heard. So I heard a Chinese business, Comcast, Amazon, or Google.
Okay, so yeah, the China thing is kind of looming. I think it ties more into you're going to see... they branched out. They've had races in Mexico. They've got a European series now. I think it's very likely you see races like in Dubai or United Arab Emirates.
Okay, so the China thing is starting to make sense to me in the fact that...
Look how big the general populace of China
okay,
is.
No, hold on. I got it. My cord's all wrapped up here. Hold on. All right, so we're getting deep. We're getting deep in the trenches.
Yes.
The China thing, I remember watching, it was either Top Gear or Grand Tour. And he said, the episode that I was watching, he was doing a Top Gear for a Chinese car. And he said in that episode that it was a recent episode, but he said in the next 5 to 10 years, everyone's going to be driving Chinese cars. Okay, now, as we've seen with automakers before, what do you do on Sunday and what do you do on Monday?
Right.
So there's no better way to get their cars into something.
Well, think about that.
And to sell their cars and to show what their cars are capable of doing, which it's either in the Top Gear episode or it was in the Grand Tour episode. One of the two, but it was a red car from China, and he was going through it and he was talking about it, and he said that it might not even been his quote. He might have been quoting someone else, but he specifically said that in the next 5 to 10 years, the mass majority of people are going to be driving Chinese-built cars.
Well, here's another thing to go down. If you look at population numbers of China versus the United States, China, we have like 300 billion people. China has 1.379 billion
billion
people.
Yeah, and then
Well, look at the percentage.
They're like their communist thing is getting weird too.
Right, it's getting weird. But look at the percentage. If you look at overlap, who's got money to go start a professional racing career? There's a lot of kids in China who can go start racing.
Yeah, but they're starting that whole. The communism thing over there is getting really weird because it's kind of like a communist capitalist blending that they're starting to do. And it's, their middle class is growing.
The landscape's changing.
Yes.
The landscape's changing. So what happens to NASCAR if it gets bought? Well, it completely depends on who buys it.
And which I've read in the few articles, if the people that are selling it still have somewhat of a say or a stake in what happens.
Well, and that right. There's so many variables as to what happens when it's sold that you can take your best guess now. Nobody knows what's going to happen. No. You have to look at who's buying it. You have to look at how much of the old management is retained. It's going to have to change. There's going to be changes. Because
you could go down a deep rabbit hole. We could spend 3 hours talking about just if a Chinese company buys it and the variables there. Okay, so now we're owned by an overseas company. So now we're going to be racing overseas. So now we've become a overseas series.
Right.
So now what happens with the supercars? Do we link in with them? And do we go around everywhere they go? Do we go to Japan? Do we go to Dubai? Do we go to Africa, Europe, South America?
Right.
Do we start following the Formula One team or the Formula One series into where they're the big show and we're the full body cars that are underneath them? And do the cars look something kind of in between a supercar and a NASCAR?
Right. Well, it's not just that.
So I think that if
the schedule changes, that's going to happen. The races are likely going to shorten. So
not if they're.
So whoever buys it.
It depends.
Okay, so here's my crux with all this. Whoever buys it is likely going to change on how it's measured and what makes it successful. TV ratings and attendance numbers can no longer be the standard because it's traditional advertising. Now, you still have a little bit of that, but the mix, so the recomposition of how all that works is gonna change, and it's gonna move. In my opinion, you're gonna get a lot smaller percentage of traditional advertising, and a lot of it is going to be moved to how can you help market my product and make my money on the digital side of things. So if an Amazon buys it, immediately right off the top of the bat, you have unique content.
Amazon Prime.
2, outside of maybe Walmart, who has more power? Who has a more powerful relationship currently with every giant retailer?
Yeah.
3, how many paid Amazon Prime members are there currently?
I don't know. But a lot.
Lots.
I know the price just went up $30.
4,
it's like $130 now. It was $100 a year.
Yeah, casual fan. The entire general populace buys into everything Amazon does. They're hooked.
Yeah.
So you can translate a lot of that customer base into a NASCAR viewer.
Because what we have done as a family under my household, we have gotten our range of our range has gotten a lot smaller. Only goes it extends the narrow road to where my wife works and the businesses around there, that small little bubble, and then coming back this way, this little bubble around our house. Walmart is not included in that bubble.
Right.
Target is because it's kind of close to what
Different.
it's just kind of
serves a similar purpose.
Yeah, but it's in that area over there. But still, you got to get out of your car. You got to go over there.
Right.
So for the longest time, we never used Amazon Prime, and then we got hooked onto it, and it's like, okay, well, I don't have to go out of my way even more. Amazon Prime is free 2-day shipping. If I can wait the 2 days, I'll get it in 2 days.
Right.
If I need it right now and it's an emergency, then it doesn't matter. Then I'll go to the Walmart because it's an emergency and I need it right now.
Right.
But if not, and then if it's certain stuff, you just push the button. You don't have to go through the whole thing. It's like, I need more. I need more.
Yes.
Like, oh yeah, hey, I need more.
Well, not just that. Think about what Amazon can offer a sponsor digitally compared to anybody else. Holy shit. Hey, buy into our NASCAR program. We'll increase your spot on the website.
Yeah.
Oh, we have all these new products that are coming in, and they're working with us, and they have a marketing budget.
How the sanctioning body does their exclusive sponsors.
Right.
You're a sponsor of the series. Why sponsor a single car when you can sponsor the whole series? So then that works into the Amazon deal. But then, like, you think Bloomin' Undies on Monday are what did I say? Yeah, Blooming Onions on Monday
After Kevin Harvick scores a top 10.
is one thing. Now do that on Amazon,
Right.
to where you get a run on your product if the driver finishes in the top 5, top 10, wins a race.
Right.
Now you're front page news on Amazon.
So now all of a sudden, it doesn't matter how much TV ratings you get. It does not matter how much people are in the stands. It's consumable content that people want to be a part of.
And you're getting
it still has value.
casual fan.
You're getting the casual fan. You're getting pieces that were once reachable that are no longer. They're coming back. It's just the way the sport is measured right now does not work. But the way it's going to be measured in the future, which, you know, when NASCAR came out and said, oh, we're probably not going to do a title sponsorship anymore. We're just going to, like, they're pulling the contingencies off. We're going to give our partners a lot more of a digital placement within our sport as contingency sponsors. We're going to take them off the car and sell and give that to the teams to sell. But if you're a team, you have every incentive in the world now to go chase a analytics company or a digital marketing company, cut deals with Google, cut all this stuff, because that's what it's going to turn into. It's going to be digital. What digital marketing can you do for us? How do you make this work?
So I Googled Amazon Prime members total. Amazon Prime subscribers in the United States up from 63 million in June during the previous year. Amazon Prime stats 2080. Okay, June 17. So almost a year ago, last year was 85 million subscribers.
Yep. Times that by $100.
130 now.
130.
And if it goes up, if it goes up what it usually goes up, it's trended.
And that's just on membership.
Okay, so in 16 it was 65, in 17 it was 80, and okay, so from it went up 20,000. It's gone up 10 to 20,000. So if you go up, do an average of 15 million So you're looking at 105 million. No, just 100 million. 100 million subscribers times 130.
Right.
And math
That's before you sell one piece of anything.
Yeah.
That's before you sell one piece of anything. So yeah, put that into perspective. Somebody big, like a Google or a Facebook. I mean, WWE, somebody's going to buy them up.
Yeah.
You know, the TV deal for the NBA is kind of fucked up like the TV deal for the NASCAR is. And NFL is to a lesser extent that they're more sorted.
You know that there's still a team in the NBA that is still in the TV deal but doesn't field a team?
Seattle Supersonics.
No. St. Louis Spirit.
Huh.
They were an ABA team. They were grandfathered into the TV deal. So now there's a St. Louis Spirit office, just an office. There was like a 30 for 30 about it. But they still get a piece of the pie. They make just as much as the LA Lakers do.
That's incredible.
On the TV deal. And they don't field a team because they were grandfathered in to the deal.
Yeah.
And then were out, but their deal, they're still inked in the deal. They don't field a team. So they've been making...
Those are the smartest guys in the room.
So, yeah. So they just fell into it. Yeah, it's really interesting to see.
I love the 30 for 30s.
Yeah.
All of them are typically very well.
Forget what it's called. And I think maybe just maybe, the contract finally ran up. But from the 70s up until just recently, they were making an equal cut as everyone else, as the Cleveland Cavaliers or the Lakers, or they were making the same amount as everyone else was. Jeez. And they didn't even fill a team. They had an office with a secretary. Probably the highest paid secretary in the world. But yeah, so when you scratch your heads and you're thinking, well, who's going to buy NASCAR? I mean, we've thrown around some pretty big numbers.
Right.
And then where does it, what happens? So if anything that we have had some form of consistency.
Yeah.
We knew that the decisions that were being made weren't going to be big, earth-shattering decisions. So I'm pretty sure that if the sellers don't have say or stake, someone else is going to fill that position.
Right.
That is generally close or has been in this, to be able to tell them, like, okay, hey, we need to make these cars have doors like the supercars.
Right.
And they were like, probably shouldn't. You ever seen a supercar? They catch on fire a lot.
Right.
Like way more than NASCARs do. So we might not want to do that per se.
Right.
So someone else is going to step in and do that. And
if I'm a new buyer, all the old management's gone.
Well, yeah, there is
gone.
that.
See ya later.
There is that, and we've seen our president do that too. Even CNN and the news thing said that he's handling this like a CEO who buys a company.
Right.
Wipes the slate clean instantly and puts in new people.
Like the bones I got, but I don't like everything else. So I'm going to flesh it out the way I want it to be.
Yeah, and it happens fast. Boom, boom, boom. That's why he was kicking all those people out like that. But yeah, that's the same thing. But it doesn't. You don't know if it's going to be written into the contract. But
well, then it's going to also make. I mean, everybody's kind of questioning. Okay, yeah, I mean, how do I sign with a team past 2024 when most likely this thing's going to turn over? And by turnover, I mean it's going to be a lot different. I don't know what the product I'm going to be buying in 2025 is going to look like compared to 2024. Yeah. So things get real weird for race teams with contract negotiations. Things are going to get real weird for NASCAR with contract negotiations. Things are going to get real weird for drivers. You're going to be trying, hey, we can't pay you this much. Well, I need as much money as possible because I don't know in 2025 that I'll even have a race car to drive.
Yeah.
I mean, so you just don't know. Racetracks, that relationship.
Yeah, they own 11 racetracks. So
ISC is a separate company than NASCAR. And
but it was still founded by the same person.
Yeah, same people own it.
Yeah, same people.
And then you have SMI, which is Bruton Smith's, Mark Smith's baby, who owns like 8 racetracks.
Yeah.
Current that are used. They also own like North Wilkesboro and other things that have been.
Yeah, because there was always the rumor that if Bruton wanted to really shake things up, he could just say, okay, I'm going to start my own thing.
Right.
And I have over half the tracks.
I doubt that happens.
No, definitely not now.
No.
For sure not now.
For sure not
I'm
now.
sure that he's going to come strolling in with his sunglasses down and his best suit on, and he's going to come walking in.
He's going to wheel and deal.
Yeah, he's going to say, hey, he's going to be, if he's, I think he's basically has to be in all the meetings, doesn't he?
Well, so there's a lot of contracts, and a lot of the TV money goes to the racetracks. A lot of the TV money goes to bigger percentage goes to racetracks than it does the race teams. And that's part of why the RTA was created. So that distribution is going to it's going to be interesting to see how all this ties in, because all of a sudden, well, you've bought NASCAR, but the tracks are completely separate, and there's an entire separate entity that owns these, that has ties to how the original NASCAR works. So it's going to get real weird.
And me as a competitor, I can tell just by going in the gate, just by showing up to the property, if it's an ISC.
Oh, absolutely.
Or if it's a Bruton racetrack, or if it's
independent.
Yeah, a few of the independent ones that we still have. Pocono, Indy,
Yeah.
are the ones that
Dover.
Yeah.
Those aren't.
Dover come to mind. Like those are specific ones where, and Indy and Pocono and Dover, they're completely different racetracks as you go into. They just have a different feel. Like they're not like when you walk into a Bruton track, it's a Bruton track.
Right.
There are similarities of what they have figured out works certain ways.
Yeah, for their business.
And
how
the
it works.
and the ISC tracks are the same way. You start seeing different things. And I'm talking like tendencies. So you ask, what are some of those things? Parking.
Oh, yeah.
Competitor parking. Usually at one place, the parking spaces that you're allowed inside the track isn't as much as when you go to a different place.
Right.
Or you go over here. You go to some of these independent tracks.
Hell, even just golf cart rentals. Completely different.
Yes. So there's some of these racetracks that you go to, you can park in the Xfinity garage.
Yeah.
So after the Xfinity team or the ARCA team or whatever, after they leave, the competitors, we park in the Xfinity garage. There's some places that we can't even park inside the track. We have to take a shuttle in, or we got to walk out of.
Right.
And that's pretty much standard about who owns what building.
Right.
And I'm not complaining about that.
No.
That's just the way.
Part of what makes that.
That's just the way.
Them.
So that company has figured out that, okay, I can sell more campground or more spectator parking or more media parking, which they always seem to get the best parking inside the racetrack. They have it figured out to where, okay, we need to sell more spectator areas,
right?
More campground, whatever. Because if we're parking our rental cars in there, we're taking up interior space, and there's only so much.
Well, think about what a new owner might want to do for media. The people who run their independent websites, they may want to control every bit of the content about their sport. I mean, everything's going to change. So is NASCAR dead? I don't think so. I think being cynical is part of a lot of what this fan base likes to do on social media. Yeah. And rightfully so. I mean, they've felt slighted and wronged.
Because a company, even as rich as Amazon, is not going to spend $5 billion just to waste some money on something that's over here.
Correct.
Like, if they wanted it to fail, they would just close the doors,
right,
and say no more.
But that defeats the entire purpose of having exclusive content. And a new owner with its new toy is just going to throw cash at it, and they're going to play with it, and they're going to say, "Oh, well, man, I didn't realize that you could market things this way to these people using stock car auto racing."
Yeah, and the first time some of those execs, if they haven't ever been to a NASCAR race, and they're standing there at Daytona and the pack comes by, after they drop the green flag, and they go by the first time, and their eyes light up, and they're like, holy shit.
Right.
Like, that's big. That's real big. And then that gets that excitement, and then you're seeing it on the front page of the app. When you pull up your Amazon Prime store, you go to the Amazon App Store, and then the first things that come up is the NASCAR drivers' hats.
Right.
coats, jackets.
Oh, you want to talk about how the merchandise side of it changes? There's no more fanatics.
No.
You have Amazon. And I mean, I buy a lot of like, we'll just call it men's fashion wear. Amazon has their own brand, and it's good.
Really?
High quality and cheap.
They have their own brand?
Yes, they have their own brands. I think it's called Good Threads.
Good Threads is Amazon's deal?
Let's see. Yeah, Amazon Good Threads. So Amazon, you go on there and you can get like a nice fitted slim cut deal that is similar to what you would get from a tailor. And then you have like Amazon Fashion.
So that's like the Walmart only brand or the Target only brand.
Correct.
Wow. I never even knew that.
So, I mean, yeah, here's a nice Oxford button up for $25, and it fits way better than anything you'll get off the store. Using data analytics of what the sizes are of people, and when you go to a tailor, what do you want a slim fit shirt to fit like, and what's the median size of your...
There's that company now that they send you something and you stand on it.
Yeah.
And it scans you.
Yep.
And then you have an exact fit.
So, yes.
Only if the seamstress fucked it up.
So, if I'm the new owner, I'm going to take a huge deep dive into the analytics. And I even put this reply. Steve Post said, okay, NASCAR sales, you buy it. What's the first thing you do? And I said, huge deep dive into the core fan base that patronizes the sport the most. And my first wave of changes is to make it fit their needs more. And I will cater to them very aggressively. And I think if you look at how the entire world is changing, the schedule, let's just be brutally honest here. NASCAR itself has gotten very stale. Very stale. The schedule hasn't changed. Okay, let's move some data.
But there's a reason. And you know that reason because that's your business.
Right.
It's hard to sell a sponsorship to a racetrack, or it's easier if they know if the date is going to stay the same for the next 3 or 4 years.
Which is why they had the 5-year deal.
Yes. So that it's not just them not wanting to shake things up. There's a reason for that.
That's what I'm saying. And what I'm saying is the new owner is likely to shake up how all this works because the model itself is going to change.
Yeah.
People are going to want shorter races. They're going to want races at different times. They're going to want...
But if it's on Amazon Prime, are they still going to want a shorter time?
I think so.
You think?
I think in general, just people want shorter anything.
I think it would become probably like Formula One or the Formula E.
Like 2 hours. 2 hours is all you get.
Yeah, timed.
Yeah.
It becomes timed. So whether or not you get to 500 miles depends on how many cautions that you have.
Right.
So they're saying, okay, well, the races historically have averaged 4 cautions in the 500 miles, and that race took 4 hours. So now we're going to drop it down to 400. So we're going to say 3 hours.
Right. I think you're more likely to see.
So if there's 8, 10, a red flag or whatever, it's going to be timed. Like the race is over.
I don't know if you'll see timed.
Grand Am does it.
Well, Grand Am does do it. I think you're likely to see it drop
another NASCAR owned series.
Yeah. Now, like Daytona 500 is probably going to always be 500 miles. Coke 600 may stay that way, but I think you're going to see majority of races kind of get cut back. And I think you're going to see
400 miles or 400 laps.
Yeah. I would say 400 or less. 300 is probably going to become the norm.
You think?
I would say 300 to 400 would be the norm, and I would say Xfinity races get cut down to an hour. Truck races probably get cut down to an hour. Like stuff that you can just easily more consume. You may even see less races. Shortening the season is something I think that a lot of people would be a part of. And if you look at the variable cost versus the fixed cost, a good chunk of your money is variable cost in the stock car racing business. It costs you more money to go race more races.
Yeah, and I think that the West Coast swing, like you would add the Sonoma, you would add the Texas.
I think you would see a complete logistical overhaul.
Yeah.
I think you would see
would tailor the schedule more towards that. But what I don't want to get into is I don't want to get into how ARCA does it. or how the truck series has done it.
Yeah, where you have a month off here. Nobody wants that.
2-3
Just
months off
interrupts
because
the flow.
yeah, you forget about it. You completely forget about it. You watch Daytona and you're like, oh wow, that truck race is awesome. When's the next one? March, April.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
You
okay.
go from Atlanta to Martinsville for the truck guys. Well, that's not true. You go Atlanta, Vegas, and then you go to Martinsville.
But in the past, it's been even further.
Yeah.
It's
and hell, they had a bunch of time off before they started back going to Kansas tomorrow.
yeah. And
So
then there was the rumor that, or whatever, I think it might have been Harvick that said it, I don't know. Might be putting words in his mouth. But turning the truck series into the winter series, staggering the seasons.
I mean, you could.
To where the trucks are racing in November and December and January in warmer places.
Right.
Maybe that, I mean, they always test down at Disney.
There's a lot of stuff that you can do. There's just so many variables, and it's just really hard to say that this is going to kill it or whatever. But one thing is certain: the way it's being measured and monitored now has to change. The way it delivers value to partners has to change, and I think it will with the new owners, because you're not going to buy something just to have it fail. So I think NASCAR as we know it, I don't know if dead's the right word, but it's absolutely going to be a pretty significant change. And I think, honestly, it's going to be for the better.
Yeah. I can't say that it's still their fault. Like, that's the theme that I've always had. It's
I mean, society has changed.
Yeah.
Society has changed so much since 2008 that
I think that the product is good, but everyone's focus is over here now.
right.
And we're not in that picture
Well, and the way the media covers it
to
is
where
just,
we could be.
just kind of garbage, and you don't get a lot of the stuff that you want, and you get a lot of the stuff that you don't want, or you hear every week, just kind of force fed.
Yeah.
And I think that there's opportunities in the future how it's going to be changed and the access you're going to get. I mean, it's already happening right now.
Yes.
So we're here. I mean,
Yes.
somebody dropped a nickel in the pool, and that little ripple came up, and that's what we're riding right now.
Yes. Exactly. We are when we can see it in our stuff. It's like, well, hell, what did we do? Well, we didn't do anything.
Right.
And we're talking about we as a show. Like there was another there was another podcast that came out, and if you're a fan, you know what podcast came out. We felt the reverberations from that.
Yes.
We didn't do anything differently than what we've been doing.
Yep.
And we had a spike, an increase from what someone over there did that was just in the same general area. That's still doing this whole podcast thing and brought people to podcasts.
Yeah.
What else is
We're
out
not even
there?
a year old yet, and we went from like 4 listens per episode to almost 500 listens an episode, 400 to 500 listens an episode.
Yeah.
And a lot of the support is from our peers. It's from people who we've never even met and talked to who now know us, which I think is incredibly humbling.
Yeah. Super humbling was we had our first request.
Yeah.
We had our first person request to come on the show, and that was big. And we're actually going to have that person on next week if everything goes good. The guest that we were supposed to have this week, he got rather busy. So
For all the right reasons.
yeah, he got rather busy really quickly and had to like as we said, get his life together real quick. And
News broke, and he got the best phone call he could have got.
yeah, he got a real good phone call. So he will soon be on here, hopefully, once the craziness settles down from that deal, and that'll be a very good one. He's been one of the original ones. So I think I might have said his name on here before, but yeah, our first request,
And that one's being hand delivered by a current friend of the show.
Yeah, friend of the show.
It even makes it even better.
yeah, that'll be a good one. But so this whole thing, it's all times are changing, and it's all going to go in a different
the
realm.
way the sport is going to be distributed and received is going to change. And I think if you're open to it, it's likely to be for the better. I think if you are, I think there's going to be enough pieces of what it was like in the 90s and 2000s that it can remain the same. In some regards, like what it feels like to be at a racetrack, or the general premise. But I think a lot of the big ticket items are definitely gonna change, but I do think it's for the better.
And if you can start,
you have to normalize it to society. You have to make it fit society.
And if you can change the show a little bit, if you can change the context of certain things, if you can allow certain things to happen a little bit more and create a buzz, if you can create a buzz and have stuff happen, not wrestling,
right?
But if you can have stuff happen and draw a buzz, that will really help. That gets people talking. That gets the casual fan talking.
Right.
That gets, oh shit! Did you see the yellow car crash the other yellow car? Like that was nuts. Like, when you start seeing stuff like that happen,
yeah,
and no one really wants to see that, but at the end of the day, that moves the needle.
right.
That gets people talking. Conor McGregor, as bad as it was, him throwing that.
Oh, he's the greatest entertainer.
As big as an asshole dipshit, shouldn't have done it. Hurt innocent people. Him doing that.
You want to talk about his knee?
I mean,
moving.
in one hand, UFC's going, dude, what the fuck are you doing? But at the same time,
then the bean counters are like.
But at the same time, their marketing people are going, we're on every channel.
Everything.
We are on every channel right now.
There's no bad press, my friend. It's not. It's true. 100% true. There's no bad press.
Yeah, and that's the spike. They seen the same spike that we saw just from.
And I mean, we haven't even got into things that a sanctioning body can do to make things more affordable and sustainable for the teams, because that's a huge part of it. Is how do you keep quality race teams keep their doors open? And that's a whole nother. I mean, we can make this a 3-part episode, but we won't, because
I think we've covered enough. But I think what you're meaning is have the Cleveland Browns have a couple teams that are allowed to suck for a little bit until they get their shit together, and have the one driver come along to come save the day.
Right.
Whereas the Cleveland Browns have been waiting multiple 20 years for their quarterback to come along.
Right.
Maybe they just got him this year. We don't know. But they have been able to stay afloat. I mean, keep getting chances.
Just think about why would auto manufacturers buy into an Amazon-owned sports league? Well, I don't know. Can you sell cars on Amazon? Because probably could then.
Yeah, or auto parts.
Or auto parts, or hell,
aftermarket stuff.
Well, I'm GM and I want to have a more of an online presence, and I don't know how to do it, and I don't have the resources. Oh, okay. Well, it just so
GM
happens,
direct parts off of Amazon.
Yeah, it just so happens that we have an incredible online offering, and if you will buy into this series, our new toy here, and invest a little bit and help us market and help us distribute to the fans that are already following, we can help you on the back end of this with your retail sales.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden you have Alexa in your Chevy Suburban or your Cadillac.
You see what I'm saying here? Like, if you want to get with the times, you gotta think big. And I think a big.
I love your reaction to that when I said that.
That's what I'm saying. But see, that you get it. That's thinking. That's the line of thinking I'm saying here. Don't be so short-sighted and be like, Brian France needs to go. Fuck Brian France. But on the same hand, being like, oh, they're selling it. It's dead. It's like, well, those opinions are kind of.
And he might not. And the rumor is he wants to buy the Panthers. So he's just, and it's not. I mean, he's done with the family business.
What's wrong with that?
How many other people?
There's nothing wrong with that.
My family were melon farmers. We've went over this. My family were melon farmers. You don't see me in India. Nothing. There's nothing wrong with being a farmer. It wasn't for me. I wanted to go be in racing.
Right.
Now he wants to own a football team. By all means, go do it and
try. At least try it.
Go win 5, 6, 7 Super Bowls. Just like go.
Don't be afraid of the change.
No, it doesn't necessarily
mean... We're not guaranteed
mean
success, but we're not guaranteed failure either.
Going into bankruptcy, everything must go. It's because he sees...
And I mean, shoot, now more than ever, man, if you are not happy with the sport or you've never been, vocal about what you want to see, every piece of everything surrounding the fan base, don't just sit here and motherfuck stuff. Say, hey, this is what used to bring me to the racetrack.
Yeah, you're not helping.
Gone. This is what I used to come here for. It's gone. Can you bring it back? How can we make this work in the modern day? Hey, we want this. We want that. Everybody, including the Twitter algorithms, push the most negative, controversial shit because it drives engagement.
It's buzz, It's buzz.
But a deep dive analytics, analysis, study, whatever you want to call it, is looking at all the comments. And there's people out there reading them. And it's getting sorted. And people are figuring out by your overall tone and your tweets through modern technology if you're just a whining little bitch or if you're contributing actual content.
Yeah, but
they know who's a fake account. They know who's a real account. They know who just gets on here and shares thoughts
and or regurgitates what he sees over there.
Right.
But there are certain people that get a lot of flack, and I end up liking them more and more because they point out...
Well, they're a real person.
They point out views, and they see stuff differently. Like they're
Nick Broomberg.
I wasn't going to say his name, but he's big on that stuff.
Mad respect for him.
He sees stuff.
He's not afraid to call it out and just say exactly how it is.
Some of the shit, it's like, bro, no. But then some of the stuff that he calls him out on, you're like,
somebody had to say it.
I didn't look at it that way, or ooh, yeah, ugh. And because he does Yahoo, right?
Yeah, he's a Yahoo writer.
So he does with Yahoo. So he's not in the deal per se, but he says some stuff you're just like, bro, no. And then some of the stuff you're like, oh wow. And then some of the stuff you're like, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
it's not just that. I mean, I like Adam Stern stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I like
Weaver.
Matt Weaver.
Yeah,
has some decent, articulated, well thought out hot takes.
Yeah, and then
Gluck, same deal.
Yeah, well, then okay, so then Gluck, Bob.
Bob is the guy who's keeping it mainstream.
Yeah, but those guys are Jeff,
Marty Smith.
Yeah, those guys are different because they're in there.
Right.
There's the group of guys that aren't, that are just seeing what anyone can see.
Right.
And but their ability to take what everyone else is seeing and point out something, that's where like guys like Nick have it nailed to where they can see what everyone else is seeing and point it out more
and not afraid to call it out.
And not afraid to call it out. So, all right. Well, sorry, my sinuses are all screwed up.
Yep, my voice is officially too scratchy to continue.
Yeah, we've ran out of beverage. So I hope you guys really liked this. A
lot of critical thought, a lot of intelligent conversation, and I think and speculation.
I think the people that are going to listen to this hopefully come from a little bit.
All I want you to do is think outside your comfort zone.
I think this has been a little bit of comfort for someone that was worried about, oh no, what's going to happen, or has gotten a very eye-opening thing to
let's be frank. None of us want real jobs. We don't want to stop working in the sport. We want to. This is how we make our money and our living. And a lot of people this is how they spend their week and their Sunday. So everybody wants to continue. We just got to be open-minded and shape ideas and directions to help say, okay, we're in for a sell. We're in for a change. How do we make this better for absolutely everyone?
Mm-hmm. Let's end it on that. You can find us at Young and Pruitt on Twitter, Instagram, youngandpruitt.com. You can find me at JackmanZach on Twitter and Instagram.
You can find me at Tall Guy Turbo on Twitter and Instagram.
And we will see you next week. Hopefully, fingers crossed, with Mr. Mason Mitchell.
See ya.